When should you get an agent or find a new one? Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And now on to our topic. When should you get an agent or find a new one? If you've been watching this channel for a while, then admittedly I can get caught in the assumption that you already have an agent, are auditioning regularly, and are building your resume. However, some of you out there might be looking to get your very first agent or looking to transition to a new agent. If that's you, then this video is tailored to you. So when should you start looking for your first agent? Well, that's really hard to answer with any sort of specificity without knowing your individual story. That said, broadly speaking, if you're in one of the larger markets like New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, then be forewarned, the competition will be fierce. In fact, here in Atlanta, it's very common nowadays that for a lot of the agents, you can't even get in the door without a referral. So with that in mind, you should probably hold off on submitting to that agent unless you can check off some or all of the following. You've been studying consistently and been in class continuously for at least a year, if not more. You've received great feedback and encouragement from those teachers. You've done theater and or improv. You've done student films, short films, or any other independent projects. And hopefully you've got some footage from those projects to cut together a reel. You've taken professional headshots. And finally, you have that teacher or fellow actor that can give you one of those coveted referrals. Now, different agents will prioritize different elements from that unofficial checklist. But suffice to say, if you've checked none of those things off that list, it is way too early in your career to start looking for an agent. In fact, here's another subtle way you know that it's too early to submit. Can you name the top agents in your market? If you can't name more than one, then you don't know your market well enough yet to start looking for an agent. Because if you jump into the stage of your career too early, you could leave a bad impression that might last a while, which could then hurt your chances of resubmitting to those same agencies down the line once you do have your materials and training in order. Now, one very valid complaint comes up at this point, which is, well, I want to book more, but I can't book more unless I get the agent, and I can't get the agent unless I book more. So that's a catch-22. I get it, but you're not going to like this answer. It's just one of the realities of the business. It's actually one of the very few ways this business has quality control for itself, because there's really no barrier into the arts. You don't need a 4-year degree or a certificate or really anything else. You can just decide one day to be an actor, and a lot of people do. So by having this obstacle, which you might think is a catch-22, it helps to sort of weed out the people who really aren't that serious. And the people who do figure out or crack the code theoretically have more work ethic and ambition and drive to do the things that it will take to build a career. Theoretically, because there are still a lot of actors that somehow slip through the cracks of this quality control, if you will. Usually because they know somebody, or know somebody who knows somebody, or they find some other back door into getting representation. Is it fair? No comment. Because there are so many aspects of this industry that seem unfair. But as I've come to realize over the years, it's just the reality, for better or for worse. And one last piece of advice if you're seeking your first agent. When you do start looking, pay very close attention to the instructions. Each agent will have its own idiosyncrasies of how they want you to submit as a new talent. Follow those instructions. If you decide to disregard those instructions, well, then you're telling that agent how you will behave when they send you an audition or when you get on set. And that makes you a huge liability. So let me repeat, follow instructions. Oh, and one other last piece of advice. When it comes to the actual signing process with the agent, be very careful how you proceed. Now, some agents will do a handshake deal, and that's great because neither party is beholden to the other for any long period of time. But some agents will ask you to sign a contract, or maybe they call it a General Service Agreement, GSA. So before you sign any of that, here's a couple things to think about. First of all, did that agent pursue you? Did they email you out of the blue or find you somehow on the internet? If they did, and they did not see you in a showcase or in some other project like a play or an improv show, that is a huge red flag. Because agents, the legitimate ones, have dozens upon dozens upon dozens of submissions coming in every week. They don't need to seek out new talent. They've got so many people vying to get on their roster, they wouldn't even have time to seek out new talent. Again, unless they see you at a showcase or an improv show or a play. So be very careful if that person has been pursuing you. The next red flag is if they're asking for any money up front. Run away if they do that. Or if they're partnered with a photographer and say, you have to use our photographer to get new headshots because yours just aren't good enough. Red flag, run away. Or they're partnered with an acting studio and say, you must take these classes because your training on your resume isn't beefed up enough. Run as fast as you can. Those are considered conflicts of interest in a business if an agent is partnered with a photographer or partnered with an acting studio like that. And if everything seems to be above board and they offer you a contract, ask to take a few days with it. Do not feel pressure to sign it right then and there. Look, I get it. I know you're excited to be offered representation, but you need to do your due diligence. So take that contract and show it to some trusted friends or teachers that are in the business that understand these contracts and get some feedback before you make your final decision. Hopefully that helps some of you newer actors figure out when it might be the right time to start seeking your first agent. For more seasoned actors who are looking to maybe switch agents, well, that can be kind of tricky. First of all, assuming that you're just not happy with your current rep, you need to be 100% honest with yourself about whether you've held up your end of the bargain. Because sometimes it just isn't a good fit, and sometimes your agent has actually been working their tail off for you, but maybe you've fallen short in certain areas. This is where communication with that current agent is key. But assuming that it's just not a good fit, be warned that some agents will not look at you unless you first drop your current agent. That can be scary to drop your current representation without the promise or guarantee of new representation. So this may take some planning on your part. For instance, let's say you're in a class, right, that has a showcase maybe 2 months down the road, and you know that some of those target agents will be in attendance at that showcase. So maybe it's time to give that 30-day or 60-day notice to your current agent to get out of that contract so that by the time the showcase comes around, you can actually tell honestly those guests, those prospective agents, that indeed you are without an agent and looking for new representation. In other words, don't lie to them. That never works or gets you anywhere. Regardless, make sure that this new agent that you're targeting is indeed a better fit. Because maybe they rep too many people already in your category and you might just get lost in the shuffle. Or that agent might have a philosophy or working style or attitude that just doesn't jibe with you at all. And that could spell disaster down the road as that relationship falls apart quicker than it got formed. Oh, and make sure this new move is upward or at worst lateral. And what I mean by that is if your current agent, the one you're thinking about dropping, just doesn't seem to have good relationships with some of those target casting directors that you covet, well, then make sure the new agent that you're going after does have good relationships with those casting directors. And that's simply a question you could be asking at an interview with that prospective agent. Having said that, sometimes a lateral move is actually the perfect move. Because let's say that at your current agent, they're just not doing the work to push you out, to get you in front of all those casting directors. They actually have decent relationships with all of those casting directors that you want to be auditioning for, but they're just not pushing you. Well, a lateral move to a similar sized agency in your city could be perfect, because if that new agent is going to work harder to push you and to pitch you to those casting directors, well, then that could make all the difference, and that might be the perfect fit. But like I said up front, it's really hard to get super specific because I don't know your personal story. So if you want to continue this discussion, feel free to leave a comment below. Also, incidentally, Brooke and I do career consultations through our business Get Taped. So if you think this is a longer discussion, you can book one of those sessions with us. We do them both in person here in Atlanta or over Zoom. And I'll drop a link below in the show notes to our website where you can do that at your leisure. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.